Hi everyone, Kumar Dattatreyan here with the Meridian Point. And today we're joined by Ashwini Kumar, a product manager and AI practitioner who has spent the last 6 years working at the intersection of machine learning and enterprise software long before generative AI made that cool. From manufacturing and energy to healthcare consulting to major telecom, Ashwini has been in the room when companies make their big AI bets. And he's watched those bets play out in real time. What makes him a compelling voice on this topic is that he doesn't just understand the technology, he understands the people, the workflows, and the organizational dynamics that either make AI implementation succeed or quietly fall apart. He's here to tell us what's really happening inside enterprises that are racing to adopt AI and why the gap between the boardroom promise and the frontline reality is a lot bigger than most companies want to admit. So without further ado, let me bring Ashwini on stage here. Hi, Ashwini.
Hello.
Great to have you on the show. And I was just mentioning to you right before we started this recording that picture behind you is the exact same one that my mom has on her wall. So coincidence or you know, maybe it's meant to be that we.
Or they're mass produced in India to the point
Yeah,
where...
exactly. So Ashwini, you've been in AI and machine learning for what, about 6 years now, which means you were doing this work before ChatGPT and all of these chatbot tools came out.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, ChatGPT suddenly made everyone an AI expert, right? Or they think they are. What's it been like watching the rest of the world catch up, and what do most newcomers to this conversation not understand?
Well, it was interesting being in machine learning and then seeing ChatGPT come out, right? It sort of really created a lot of noise and a lot of buzz around what ChatGPT could do. I kind of sometimes consider it the front end of AI, you know, something that anybody can talk to. Machine learning before was, you know, it has a purpose. It has a very specific purpose that it's used well for. Recommendation engines, things like that. It's used pretty widely with that. So, but then,
so
you know,
you mean like things like Netflix? Is that run on machine learning? Yeah.
Yep. Because of patterns and neural networks and things like that. Manufacturing processes. We work with a roof tile company of all things, because to make a roof tile is a very complex mixture of asphalt and this and that, and then all the stuff mixtures they get, always sort of a recipe they have to mix just right, or the mixture they have to throw out. So that's true. Chemical manufacturing process. It's very key to have very precise, predictable outcomes or measurements, right? Back then, it was more about, and it's still the case today, about interpretability and trusting the data, right? It was a little bit easier to trust machine learning, but did it produce the data that they would understand? Because again, it's the same thing today. It's about how they do their work and how they do their experiment. That's going back to machine learning and manufacturing, how they do their chemical processes, and does that correlate to what the models are telling them? Sometimes it did or did not. It was sort of hard to make that correlation sometimes, especially with oil companies, very complex systems. We also worked with mechanical engineers with CFD and designing wings, trying to optimize the wing design simulations, because that was like three-dimensional data, mountains of data.
Yeah.
And you're putting that through a model that, yeah, sure, it can run the simulations, which would take days to run, and then they have to go back. Oh, I need to adjust this, and this. But it was expensive to run that amount of data through a model. It was not easy.
Yeah.
So
what's changed then since then with ChatGPT and sort of like the way you put it? I like the way you put it, the front end to this.
Yeah, I mean, you can use machine learning with and then have LLMs interpret what the models are telling you if that's their use case. But I think, it's brought it to the public, not machine learning per se, but AI, right?
Yeah.
Brought it to the public and interact with it and understand it and use it in a way that they can understand. So that has really brought a lot of money into it too. More money than, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but a lot of the VC money went into LLMs after. Machine didn't get put aside, but the money wasn't funneling that way anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, billions and billions of dollars in investment in
I mean, I think we're reaching almost $1 trillion almost. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. So you've been in rooms where major enterprises make the decision to go all in on AI.
Yeah.
In your experience, what does that decision look like, and where does it start to go wrong?
Well, that's interesting. Sorry?
If it does go wrong.
Well, it's still, I wouldn't call it, I'd say it's in its juvenile state. I don't know what you would call it, whatever. But the AI, as far as what we know of it today, is based on LLMs generally. And people want to deploy, and companies want to deploy this pretty rapidly. There's that pressure, okay? At the executive level, there's the pressure to implement it. There's the pressure to be more productive, increase efficiency. Now, the other thing is what I noticed is that it becomes sort of a pet thing for some executives. Like, it becomes sort of a thing that they can put on their pedestal, right? Like AI, implemented AI. But they push it sometimes so hard that they don't think about what problems it's solving. Is it solving those problems? What are some of the outcomes? Is it being successful? They've invested so much money into the project that it almost cannot fail. It might fail, but they don't want it to.
Right.
So sometimes they tend to fudge the numbers a little bit to make it look good.
Yeah, interesting. So, in our prep call leading up to this conversation, you made a point, right? So when companies employ AI to existing manual workflows, all they're really doing is automating a human process that was may have already been broken. Can you unpack that for us, and what should they be doing instead?
Well, I think you first and foremost, you shouldn't apply an AI process as a blanket way to solve what you're doing as a human workflow, right? So you should take a look at the workflow and see if there's things in there that can be first automated. Look at what may be a tedious, repetitive task, and then look at what maybe a step that doesn't need to be done. Like maybe there's a human involvement in a step that really could be done another way, right? Because a lot of times what I've seen is they try to use AI to automate what the human was doing, but that may not always be the best approach. Okay.
Why is that?
Well, sometimes the human does extra things they don't need to be doing. Right. Sometimes those things can be shortcutted. There might be things you need to add to it to automate it. Just depends what you're talking about. But a human might be jumping around in different systems to get information. Well, an automation or AI doesn't need to jump around. Well, it does jump around, but much faster. Yeah. Right. So there might be some steps in there that a human does that just don't make sense.
So that's interesting. I mean, just a question popped in my mind that is it conceivable or inconceivable that an AI would make a different decision given the same circumstances?
It is possible, yes.
That it could make a different decision?
Yeah, there is there's a technology I haven't implemented yet called it's based on a semantic kernel that looks for bottlenecks. It's an agent. You can build an agent based on that. I haven't implemented it. I've just read about it in theory. It sounds interesting. But it can look in your workflow, as long as they're digitized, it can look in the workflow process and look for bottlenecks and try to fix them.
Oh, interesting.
If you make it autonomous, but I think you'd probably want a human in a loop situation for that.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, the reason I ask that is for certain types of processes that are repetitive but that rely on really very strict rules on how to apply them.
Yeah.
You may not want to use an AI, because if it can
Right.
make a different decision based on whatever, whatever it's however it comes up with the decision, then if you're using AI to make a decision on a loan or a mortgage, or something that's more critical, that maybe you want the human in the loop to make those decisions. I don't know.
Generally, you do.
Yeah.
You want to make the process to gather the information much quicker, right?
Yeah.
And then let the human make the ultimate decision, because there are
Right.
nuances, there are cognitive things that a human must do. So
Right.
all of the processes should augment what a human does, not necessarily always replace it. Maybe the tedious stuff, repetitive stuff, yes, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The point I need to make is, a lot of times you need to look at what can be automated first, right? Because implementing AI is not cheap; it's expensive. And
I read a report that I forget what company it was there for coding, Claude Code or whatever it was, that they're going back to making developers, do it manually, do it the old way, just because it was too expensive to use these tools. Was it Microsoft? Yeah.
They're pulling the licenses for Claude Code.
Oh, interesting.
And the thinking is that it's just too expensive.
So until costs come down, maybe that's not a place to trust. Who knows?
Yeah, but I think they want to push Copilot too. So
okay,
not paying Claude, right? Because they're paying another company, right? So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this industry is changing so fast, maturing so fast that it's hard to predict where it's going to be in a year, 6 months even.
Yeah, I mean, did you hear about Starbucks? They did a AI implementation. I just read about it.
I did not.
Yeah, it's interesting. They were implementing AI, and it just didn't, for inventory management and things like that. It just off. And Starbucks has so many locations.
Sure.
You mess one thing up in inventory, it can screw up the whole chain.
Yeah. I have an interview coming up with another gentleman who is in decision management, and that'll be interesting to see what his take is on AI in the decision loop, right? So how decisions get made. In our prep conversation, you described a situation where a sales rep found a data error in an AI platform, and because of that, they went back to their old system. This new AI thing just became a tool that just was essentially dead to them. How do you rebuild trust once it's broken?
It's difficult. So the way you build trust is they have to use the tool you're implementing in a way that it's easy for them. So a lot of sales reps that I work with on this one particular platform, they had a way of getting the information they needed pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They knew where to go, they knew where to get it, and they were pretty fast at it. Now, AI was faster, but there were times when they would look and the data was wrong. Either the data wasn't structured correctly, and it's also based on RAG, and RAG still drifts a little bit. Sometimes we'll give you a different answer every time. The data might be the same, but it might phrase it differently or something like that.
Can you explain what RAG is for the audience that may not know?
It's, RAG is, what does it stand for? Regenerative Augmented Generation.
I don't remember. I just know it's used.
Yeah. I just use acronyms so much I forget what it stands for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically a platform where you ingest your data and for the company, and it's used quite a lot in most enterprises. And then you use the LLM to query against the data that it ingested.
Okay.
And it uses its own model training to understand that data.
And what do you mean by drift?
Well, sometimes the model might look at, depending on how you trained it and how you design the data and the data you fed it from the RAG, it might give a different response to what like, okay, it says this thing one time, and then you through a couple months, you've done some adjustments to it, and then it goes to another direction on how it answers it. Okay. In the industry, it's commonly known, it might be like overfitting it, so it drifts a little bit. So you don't want it to do that.
Right.
You always have to monitor it, make sure it's not drifting.
Yeah.
You're always adjusting it. These things are not one and done.
Interesting.
The promise of RAG was it wouldn't hallucinate.
Okay.
But it still does a little bit.
Yeah. Well, humans hallucinate all the time, so
totally. Yeah. We built this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But RAG still hallucinates a lot less.
Yeah.
Machine learning hardly at all. If it doesn't really hallucinate, but it may not have the confidence. It has 95% confidence. And then you have agentic RAG, which is much, much better, and you have agents that work on top of the RAG that are designed for specific tasks.
And
when we implemented agentic RAG, we found that the RAG was much more useful in what we were trying to do. We were generating proposals. It was much better at writing the proposals. It was much better at formatting them. It was much better at writing them in context.
Is that because the data was a much smaller subset of what the agent needed to do its work?
Well, no, I mean, from what I could understand is that each agent, given a specific task, is able to focus just on that part.
I see.
Like an agent that focuses on formatting.
Yeah.
An agent that focuses on the context of the RFP. An agent that focuses on, designing the final format of the proposal. And then you have an orchestration agent that tells each agent what to do.
Okay. So I guess AI, or success in AI projects, comes down to limiting the scope, maybe, and not trying to do too much.
Yes. Generally, a lot of these projects try to tackle too much.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that broadly. I'm just saying in my experience. When you have a very small task you're trying to focus on that you can measure the impact for that exact task you're trying to apply AI to, or automate it, or both, it's easier to measure that.
Yeah.
Right? So as my example, if all you're trying to do is generate a proposal against an RFP, it's easier to measure how long it took you before that. How good is this proposal to the ones we used before? Things like that. Simpler stuff like that.
So that would be the ROI, sort of the ROI of that AI implementation. ROI it should be directly measurable, that it helped reduce the time to produce whatever the artifact was, or the value that you're getting out of it. And when you make it too big, it's kind of hard to attribute that, right? The type of.
It's hard to capture the KPIs, what you're trying to see, or what you're trying to measure. It's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Time saving is always a difficult thing to capture, unless you're,
of course, for sure.
Users. Yeah.
So when you go in, when you're helping a company when they're thinking about, okay, we need to implement AI, everyone else is doing it, we've got to do it too.
Yes.
How do you sort of help them think through use cases that are good to pilot an AI project on?
So what you just said is a very common problem.
Yeah.
They want to implement AI because their competitors are implementing AI.
Yeah.
So they're in a rush to do it. So you have to kind of really help them step back to understand what the problem is the users are experiencing. And typically what I've seen is they tend to make assumptions on what their teams are experiencing, the team of sales reps, that may or may not hit the mark. So we need to be very careful. And I always try to push, let's try to dig into some of these problems that we're trying to solve. Let's dig a little deeper before we start doing this. I've seen it where they just let's come up with these 5 solutions and let's go. Okay,
Yeah.
and then assign teams to them. And then I've seen this, the teams build the solution and don't even know what the problem is they're solving specifically. And then the 5 different solutions don't even talk to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's reminiscent of just, any kind of project, right? So we do that all the time.
Yes.
And it's expensive with AI. It becomes more expensive with AI because of all the infrastructure you have to invest in, the tools you have to invest in, and things like that. So I can certainly see that. And that's one of the things you talked about in our prep conversation. You talked about the scenario where a company built 5 different separate AI platforms, none of which talk to each other.
Correct.
Why would, how, I guess it mirrors the structure of the organization. Maybe they built it for each division. I don't know how that worked, but that is maybe a relatively common thing. We got to build an AI for this and an AI for that, and don't really think about how to connect them together.
Yeah, they think of different problems, right? And then they think of a different solution set for each.
Right.
But some of it sometimes is based on some assumptions on how they're solving it for their team.
So what does that tell you about how the organization thinks?
Well, they're not a true product oriented company, because I always come back to the product thinking.
Yeah. What
is the problem? How are we solving it? And jobs to be done still applies, it's still a huge thing. It's big in AI, right? Because we're trying to solve a particular task and make it much easier to do than before and much more productive.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
But I think now this is kind of a broad statement. I think the bigger the company, the harder it is to implement, of course.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to do it company wide, right? And it becomes much more daunting. And then when your competitors, you're reading about them doing it and supposedly having good results, who knows? You don't want them to beat you at it.
Right.
So, and you want to look good.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this stat out there that 95% of AI projects fail in some way or the other, fail to deliver meaningful returns. From what you've seen, does that track with your experience?
Yeah, I would say it's a little higher than I would expect. But from what I've seen at the major companies, I think the expectations far exceed reality.
Okay. So what would you say is a way for companies to sort of get more honest with what they're looking to achieve? And I guess we've kind of talked about it, right? So break it down into smaller chunks and smaller pieces, perhaps. And anything else that comes to mind?
Well, I think they need to think of AI as another solution to the problems, not the solution.
Right.
It's another tool in your tool set.
Yeah.
Right. And the most expensive one. But don't forget about automation. Don't forget about triggers. Don't forget about other solutions that may work also. Don't just apply AI to it because it sounds cool.
That's a good point. So, use it judiciously, especially because it is expensive. But it can really enhance and augment the products that you're building, the services you're building, if used for the right purpose in the right context, I suppose.
Yeah, a lot of companies, we're all still learning, we're all still adapting, we're all changing. That 95% is definitely going to go down.
Yeah.
But it's going to cost a lot of money to get there.
Yeah. Like any new technology that goes through its phase of sort of adoption, right? So if I remember, you're also building your own AI product, a powered product on the side, right? A proposal generator. Is that right?
Correct. I'm building 2 now, but yeah, I'm building a system that takes RFPs, and writes proposals against them. I've worked for a couple of consulting companies that's some of the directors, that's all they did, write proposals all the time, especially the bigger consulting companies.
So what are you learning from this experience?
How, like I mentioned before, about how agentic RAG really makes a difference. How to build
Okay.
RAG. And so when we put the agents and we did the agents correctly, it made a huge difference. We're able to generate the proposal in one run, and then it's you don't have to prompt it very much after that. Okay. Currently, if you go into Claude, you can generate a proposal, but you still have to prompt it, each section, each paragraph. But we've got it down to where all of our agents are doing all the work and generating pretty nice proposals. But you're still able to prompt against it and refine it. So,
do you find that you have to make any edits, sort of final edits, before you send these proposals out, or?
Yeah, you generally do. I mean, a little bit. Okay. Maybe it just depends on what you're looking at, but generally, you should know your industry.
Yeah.
And then if you know your industry, you do tend to have to glance at it and look at it and adjust it a little bit. We're getting better and better at it, depending on the industry, and we're refining it more and more and more. So,
okay.
The thing is there's only like 4 of us, and we're able to develop a pretty powerful tool.
That's nice. What would you say the ROI is? I mean, if you had to do these proposals by hand or manually, like compared to using the system?
Well, typically with the consulting companies we're working with, it can take one proposal can take week, 2 weeks generally to write, because it's got to be you got to pass it around. We're able to generate the first draft probably in a day, 2 days. And then do a review in 3 days maybe. So we cut the time down significantly. And then if you can do the proposal much faster, you can do more proposals.
Sure.
And hopefully generate more revenue if you win a proposal.
Yeah.
So
that's when I worked more on the consulting side. I remember proposals would take 1 or 2 weeks. I mean, wherever you were, they were really good at it, because the companies I worked at, it would take a month to write a proposal, and there was tons of reviews, especially for government work, right? So right. So it would take a month at least to get the first draft to go to, I forget all the terms that were used at the time, but something like this, if you can get a first draft in a couple of days, that can start to go through the review process, that could really be something.
Yeah, it's a huge time saver. I work with a defense consulting firm. That's all my director or a guy above me, that's all he did. He just worked on proposals all the time.
Yeah, that would be such a boring job.
Yeah.
Something it would be good for AI.
Yes.
All right.
It's a good application. A good application of AI is time saving. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So I think is that the key? Have you sort of developed? I'm sorry, this spurred a thought in my head. Have you sort of developed a set of characteristics of what would be good for AI and what would not be so good for AI?
Yeah. I mean, it's just been learning for me, just like everybody else. What I've seen work well, what I've seen probably doesn't work perfectly or great. In theory, many of the use cases I've seen should work pretty well, but when you're dealing with legacy companies, or however you want to phrase that have processes and workflows in place that have been around for 20, 30 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Trying to all of a sudden within a year apply AI to all those systems and change people's habits is tricky to do. It's change management, right?
Yeah. For sure.
I noticed that when you implement AI, there's a top 20% of people that are just all about it. They're super tech savvy. They'll try it. They'll jump on it. They'll go at, and they'll use it, because you must have engagement on it. If you don't have engagement, the implementation goes flat. It dies, and there's no ROI. You have that top 20%, and then you have the middle, which is indifferent. They're okay with it. They use it a little bit, and the bottom that doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, that's about right. All right, so we're getting towards the end of our time together. Anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share?
So I think that, I mean, one thing I know that in playing with Claude Code and everything like that, things are changing. Like you said, things are changing so fast. A year ago, Claude Code was not what it is today. Not even 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm actually loving playing with it. I think AI, the hard part is getting it to work once, and the hard part is getting people to trust and rely on the data. I think that is a key thing. But I would sum it up as the reality of AI and the hope of AI. There's still a gap there.
Yeah, I'm sure that will persist. I mean, reality is going to move further and further to the right in terms of what we can do, but there's always going to be something that we're hoping for, that it doesn't do yet. So that may always be there. Maybe it'll narrow in time, but that's a good point you make. I thought I would end with a couple of fun questions.
Sure.
If you're open to it.
Sure, no problem.
So, say you're in a technology conference, and what's an AI hot take that would get you in trouble?
An AI hot take? You mean
like something you say that might get you in trouble because you're in a conference about technology?
I mean, if I just stood up and said something that would really get them to jump on me or something. Interesting question. So I would say kind of what I've mentioned before. I would say something like, everybody believes AI is a magic bullet, but it's not. It is not the magic bullet we all think it is. That's the only thing I would say. That would probably get me in trouble with some, but not with others.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, it's good. So say a C-suite executive comes to you and says, we need an AI strategy. What's the first thing that you would tell this person?
I would say, okay, what is your, I would go back to my product thinking. All right, what is your vision of your AI and what do you see it doing? Let's talk about that first. So it goes back to our product vision. It's almost an AI vision. And then get them talking about it. Because they may be very lofty, they may be spot on, or they may be somewhere in the middle, right? So need to see where they're at first and how they see AI in solving the problems they're trying to solve.
Yeah. Before you can build a strategy, you need to understand what the vision is, or even, do they have one?
Yeah, they may or may not. I mean, their strategy may be off, or their vision, or their AI vision. I call it an AI vision.
Yeah. I mean, it might just be that they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or they're like, oh, we have to do something with this, but we don't know what that is. So,
and in the industry I worked in, telecommunications, they're very competitive. Most industries are. I think every company doesn't want their competitor getting ahead of them in AI.
Right. Which is why there's so much money going into it.
Yes.
All right. Well, this is fun. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hope you enjoyed it. I did. Learned something new. All right. Well, thanks again, and we will talk soon, I'm sure.
There'll be something new coming out in 2 months that we'll talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure, because the industry changes all the time. All the time. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you.